Hey, 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 everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And doing a quick video over here talking about this article in the New York Times that has been making its way around the music Twitter water cooler. And it's an interesting bit of data that I think the oldies will be interested in, but maybe some of the more inquisitive young 20 somethings in the audience. And I'm sure you're kind of experiencing a little bit of the nostalgia spoken about in this article as well. But Seth Stevens Davidowitz, Seth Stevens Davidowitz, it's a long name. He came through with this article over here trying to talk about, I guess, a difference of musical opinions that he's had with his brother. And he gets super analytical about it, talking about, well, yeah, maybe it's a bit of a difference in age thing. And he goes into some pretty interesting data talking about at what points in a certain person's life is music or songs really, really important. Like, when does a particular song, when it hits you at a certain point in your adolescence, teenage years, whatever, when that song hits you, what is the likelihood that that track is going to stick with you? You know, at what point does that song need to hit you in your life in order for it to be kind of a song, an artist, or whatever that you end up loving for the rest of your life, forever? And according to the data gathered over here, a small difference, a small variation between men and women here, because they collected data for men, data for women, very small difference, but just 13, 14 about. It looked like the age range for women, it might start a little bit younger generally. I guess as you can see over here, because a lot of the data sets for 10, 11, even 9 seem to be bigger than that of men. And it looks like overall for men, their taste as they age, as they get older, is not as influenced generally by what they've heard as a teen or as an adolescent, but still it seems to still carry quite a bit of weight, quite a bit of influence. And it seems like, and I don't know if I should interpret this as for women, music in their 20s maintaining more significance for them as they age, or if I should interpret this as women sort of generally being more passionate about music as they age as opposed to men. Maybe it can be read both ways, you know, because if I'm to read the data set over here for women, it seems like passion for music, you know, or sort of interest in music, or I guess the music that ends up sticking with you as you get older, starts earlier and trails off at a slower pace. While for men, it seems like it's almost concentrated into, you know, like a very very small time frame, and then after that, you know, are they even still continuing to listen, or is, you know, it looks like it gets so small by age 30 that whatever your music you're hearing by 30 has literally no impact whatsoever on whatever you're enjoying or listening to as you get older. I don't know if that means that music that you're listening to at age 30, does it mean that you don't care about it as much? And does that also mean because you've essentially tuned out of music while, you know, at age 30? Or does that mean you have essentially kind of, I guess you're listening to things at age 30 that you don't listen to anymore by age 40, and you're just constantly bouncing around and just listening to different things and just not having any, I guess, kind of the music isn't having any kind of sway or influence on what you continue to enjoy. I'm not exactly sure if I should read it like that. It seems to me just sort of like almost like in a way this could potentially correlate with just interest generally in music, and sort of new music specifically. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting data set over here, and they did it by a handful of songs as well, sort of analyzing at what point in certain people's lives, at certain ages, certain tracks hit or became popular, and when I guess that song ends up being kind of significant to you in your lifetime. They talk about a few tracks from The Cure, Janet Jackson, Roy Orbison, talking about how that the Roy Orbison song for people who are now age 69, and that track came out when they were 17. The song seemed to have an incredible amount of significance, of importance. Same thing for women at age 41 with that Cure track, but they were at age 11 when that track came out. For the Janet Jackson track, it's age 11 as well for the women who they talked to in the study. For men, they sort of talk about the same age ranges mostly, although it looks like they kind of talk they talk to men who are discussing these songs or sort of ranking these songs as high or influential for them as they were later in their teenage years, 18, 16, and 17. Although, as we discussed earlier, it seemed like that range did start generally a little later for men, whereas women, that importance, that significance sort of started a bit earlier. It's interesting to see the differences, but honestly, they're not so different that it's like night and day or anything like that. The article and the writer of the article posited that it might have something to do with puberty generally starting a little bit earlier and maturity starting a little bit earlier for women than for men a lot of the time. But they also made a funny reference to Radiohead's Creep, talking about the popularity of that song with men in their late 30s. And Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise as well, which apparently is not that hot with women in their 70s. I guess the point I want to make with bringing this up is that music, your musical taste, what you enjoy, what you end up gravitating toward, and the kind of music that ends up sticking with you into your older years, it is just so based on context. It is so based on context. Taste is very heavily based on context. And the year in which you were born is just one bit of that context. You know, it also depends on the type of family life you lived, where you grew up geographically, probably where you grew up or how you grew up economically, the friends that you kept, you know, what they listened to, the influences in your life, you know, what did your brothers or sisters listen to, that sort of thing. Obviously, you know, what the radio was playing or what you were hearing on YouTube or what was popular at the time, which is obviously a big chunk of why we're talking about people liking certain songs that were hit tracks from when they were kids. Now, obviously, you can transcend this and continue to be a lifelong, passionate music fan and continue to enjoy and listen to music in your 20s and 30s and beyond, you know, but this, I think, marks an important sort of revelation here, and that's that for most people, music is just kind of a casual thing. You know, it's something that you listen to as a hobby. It's just for entertainment. It's just a fun, cool, you know, bit of entertainment, auditory entertainment. It's not something a lot of people who probably watch this channel are treating like comic book collectors treat comic books, you know, and they're just super nerdy about it, super dorky about it. That to me is a very specific thing. You know, I don't think that applies to probably most people. You know, sort of answering these questions. However, it is still interesting to see certain songs that pop up at certain points in people's lives, and it's really no surprise at this point for anybody who's my age or older, or for anybody who's younger than me. And you know, you talk to your parents and you say, "Hey, what music do you like? What music do you enjoy?" And probably the first music they bring up and probably the first music they reference is music they heard when they were your age or younger. You know, oh man, this amazing band or artist or singer or rapper or jazz player or whatever that I used to listen to when I was 15 or 16 or when I was in high school. You know, we had real music, blah, 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 blah. You guys have probably heard that story again and again and again. And there's a reason that is in fact the case. You know, and that reason is context. That reason is context. Will the millennial generation sort of overcome this? Because we have the internet, you know, we have the ability to be listening to things all the time, listening to things constantly, trying new things, keeping up with new trends. We have the internet. With the millennial generation, I see a certain kind of openness to newer music and musical trends changing and shifting and altering. Will that be different? Will that sort of mark things in a different way? With those X factors kind of being put into play. I'm not exactly sure. I guess there's a potential for that to be the case. But it could end up being that the millennial generation ends up tuning out of new mainstream popular music at around the same age that most people do. and just kind of move on to doing other things, or just when they think about what music is good, what music is important to them, they just kind of look back upon whatever tracks or songs or artists they heard when they were in this very age range over here. Let me know down in the comments what your experience is personally, younger person, older person, doesn't matter. What songs do you look back upon the most nostalgically? What songs to you, what artists to you carry the most importance in your life, the most significance in your life, and you feel have kind of strongly influenced your musical tastes today? Are they in fact the artists that you stumbled upon back when you were in these age ranges, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up to 17? Let me know. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Here's another one over here next to my head, actually in this direction. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, forever.